Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel here. So today I'm doing something a little bit different. As you'll know, I've recently been working on an Amazon buyer's guide kind of series, but today I'm taking a little break from that and looking at a different store, a much younger store in terms of how long it has existed, and obviously in size it's a lot smaller than something like Amazon as well, but this is sort of like a curated marketplace for gaming system, mostly computer sales, and it's called Jawa.gg. It's a little bit of a strange name, but it's making a lot of waves. I think people are starting to really see this store. They've got a really big Discord and people are getting really interested in it. So I thought I would take a look at it today, give you my thoughts on what I think about the store, what I think about the pricing, and just taking a look at a more curated version of something like a Facebook marketplace. I'm unsure if they just sell second-hand parts or whether they do have a selection of new parts as well, but I do know that they sell full computers, and then they sell parts and just a big selection of things. So with that said, I'm going to be taking a look at some of the prices, some of the values, and just letting you know my thoughts on it. As I've mentioned, this is sort of like a curated marketplace, so it's going to be interesting to take a look at some of the things they have on here. And of course, if you are outside of sort of main countries like the USA, you won't be able to sell on this store, but you would still be able to purchase from it and have it shipped to you. Now, I am less inclined to do something like that because of shipping costs, but regardless of that, this is more about just taking a look at the store and taking a look at the values and just my overall thoughts on the store. So with that said, let's take a look at it. Stay with me. Okay, so firstly, they have a selection of pre-built gaming PCs. Now, not pre-built in terms of a company that does pre-built PCs like Asus or Acer or whatever. This is just more people have built PCs and they are selling them. Or these might just be old PCs that people are not using anymore that they've cleaned up and are selling. Regardless, I'm going to take a look at each one of these tiers, these value tiers, and we'll start with the value one. Let's take a look. So I assume this isn't one of the PCs. I think this is sort of just like a thumbnail, and it gives you a general inclination of performance. These sort of metrics don't really mean anything because there are no numbers attached to it. I mean, taking a look at this PC, it would be able to run Elden Ring really easily. So this is sort of like a stupid way to do this. And yeah, also Minecraft can be extremely difficult to run. So it's just a silly way to do it. But regardless of that, let's take a look. Starting out hot with a Lenovo ThinkStation. I'm just going to select a few random ones and just quickly look at them. $430 for a ThinkStation that has an Intel Xeon processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and an RX 580. Is that a good value? Taking a look at this, it's got a decent cooler for the CPU. It's got an RX 580, this we know. And this is what I meant with those metrics being kind of silly. If we go back here, it says it's like a red rating for Elden Ring, like a really bad rating. But that's just silly because this has an RX 580 which will be able to get easily 40 to 60 frames on RX 580 regardless of the CPU. Okay, not if you're running like a Celeron, but if you have any sort of modern CPU, it's going to run Elden Ring fine. So those sort of measurements that they have is sort of a little bit silly. Okay, so this is a normal ThinkStation. You can't really remove the motherboard. It's a little bit silly in that way. It's a little bit proprietary. This comes with, okay, let's see, a Xeon with 6 cores, 12 threads, Xeon 2135. It's got a Lenovo stock cooler. It's pretty decent looking. 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM. Okay. It's got an 512 SSD and an MSI Armor 588 8 gig. So this is actually a brand name RX 580. So that's good. And it's got a 900 watt Platinum 80 Plus power supply from Lenovo itself. Okay, this is getting a little bit better. So this is sort of what I meant with those ratings. This guy did some benchmarks. 100 plus FPS in Battlefield 5, Apex Legends 110 plus, GTA 5 150 plus, Fortnite 100 plus, Red Dead Redemption 2 55 plus. So yeah, I mean it's not the prettiest system, but it's a very capable system in terms of just general HD gaming. So for $430, I would actually say this is quite a good value. Um, it seems like the shipping prices are really good as well. That's no, that's not the shipping prices. Let's see what this. Okay, you can only estimate US shipping, so that's not going to be relevant. This is sort of like a monthly purchase of this, so you can purchase it for $40 a month at the lowest. Regardless of this, this is quite a good price for this listing. I can see people selling this for over $500 easily. So it's a good start for the site. Not a pretty PC, but a good value in terms of performance. So that's a good value. Okay, let's take a look at. I have to choose quite well because I can't sit here forever and do this. So I'm just going to choose ones that looks interesting. Okay, let's go with the second one. This has a Ryzen 2700X, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 1078 gig for almost $700. So instantly this is not as good as a value as the first one. This has a custom cooler here for the CPU. It's got a Zotac graphics card, and it's got an 80 plus bronze, looks like perhaps an Antec power supply, EVGA power supply. So this is quite a nice looking system. It's got a nice case as well. I'm not sure what case it is, but excuse me, but it looks quite nice. So it's got the Thermalright Peerless Assassin, so that's a good CPU cooler. B450M motherboard from Gigabyte. 16 gigs of CL16 DDR4 RAM, doesn't specify the speed. A terabyte SSD, a 1078 gig, and a Fantex metallic gear case. 700 watt power supply, and comes with Windows 11. It's got 2 fans. And let's take a look at these benchmarks. 110, 115, 125. So, according to the benchmark, this PC is sort of similar to the previous one, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense. An RX 580 doesn't come close to a 1078 gig in terms of performance. I mean, it's not super far away, but it's not as good. So these benchmarks don't make a whole lot of sense. I think these benchmarks could be a little bit better, or the previous PC's benchmarks were not 100% honest. Either way, $700 is a little bit expensive. I would think, well, $685. I would think something like $550 would be acceptable for a computer like this. So it's a little bit expensive, not the best value there. So let's do a last one for this little value section that they have. I just need to test. I need to choose something that is. This is interesting because this case is very damaged. It's got an RX 460. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Wow, this case is destroyed. So again, I think, is this a proprietary case? I believe you can remove this motherboard from this case. If you look at this IO shield, it can definitely pop out. So if I were this person, I would have removed this, because this is a much older Dell pre-built Office PC. And wow, this is not looking good. Everything seems like the normal standard connectors to me. I mean, you've got your 24 pin there. You've got the additional power there. Yeah, I think you could put this in a different case. And I think that would help the value proposition so much, even at $300, because the PC that I built on Amazon for $300 new is a better value than this in terms of performance. And that's a new system. I think the graphics in that was a APU on the 4600G, so maybe in terms of performance it will do a little bit worse, but you're getting all new parts and a really nice system. So yeah, this is a tough sell, and it's only DDR3 as well. What CPU do we have here? So we've got the RX 460, DDR3 RAM, 16 gigs of it, and we've got a Xeon E3 1230. Now, is that a... doesn't say the core count on that or the thread count, so that's not good. Yeah, this is not a good value. It's only got a 300 watt power supply. It's got a really old graphics card, and it's in terrible condition. So yeah, I would not go for this. It's got a 4-core Xeon. Yeah, this is a no for me. $300 isn't much for a PC, but you can build a new PC for, you know, that's better than this. If you just added $100, you can build a much better PC with new parts. Never mind secondhand. So that's not a good value. So far we've had one good value, one okay value, and one really bad value. Now I would like to take a look at more of these, but unfortunately I do need to look at the other ones as well. So we're gonna do that. Let's take a look at the mid-range. Okay, starting out straight away at around $1,000, which is not cheap. I'm gonna go for something a bit cheaper, maybe around $700 or $800. Hey, let's take a look at this one. $800. Budget gaming PC, Intel i3 13100F with a 3060 Ti for $800. It's a nice looking PC. It's got a Montec case, which isn't the best, but it's fine. It's got a nice Aorus RTX 3060 Ti. It's pretty good. It's got really cool looking cable extensions, and the whole thing has like a purple theme that's quite well done. I think it looks really nice, and the case's fans look nice, and everything fits well. I mean, these are sort of entry-level parts in terms of, you know, gaming these days. Entry-level, you know, modern parts, like recent parts. But this is a nice little system. $800 might be a little bit expensive for this. Let's take a closer look. It's got a 13100F, which I believe is a 4-core. Yeah, it's a 4-core CPU. So already you want to go for like a 13400 instead. It's got a Micro ATX motherboard from MSI. It has got 16 gigs of 3200 megahertz CL16 RAM, so that's quite standard. The graphics card is a good selling point because it's a Aorus Elite 1360 Ti. It is the 8 gig one because it's the Ti, but I mean, for a system like this, that's more than enough. It's got a I'm not sure if this is an SSD. I think it is, but it doesn't specify. I think this is a 1 terabyte SSD. I would hope so. And it's got a 650 watt 80 plus bronze power supply from EVGA, and then it's got those Asia Horse extensions, which make it look really nice, and the Montec Air. This case is popular because I think it's a really good value in terms of just how as far as cases go these days. So no benchmarks on this one, but you can think that this PC would perform quite well at HD. Yeah, it is an SSD. It's an NVMe SSD. I really like how this looks, first off, with the purple lights and everything. So there's the NVMe drive, 16 gigs of RAM. But at this price, I would have hoped for just one rung up for the CPU. Just that 13400. Just get that 6-core CPU in there, because the rest of the system is quite nice. But I don't think it's a bad value at $800. I just don't think it's a great value either. I think it's a decent value. So it's sort of like mid-range value for me. Let's see if we can find a good value. Gonna go a little bit more expensive. Actually, let's go a little bit cheaper. Let's take a look at this. So this is a AMD build. It's got a 5700 XT and a 3600 CPU. Yeah, this looks quite nice. This not as nice as the first one, but it's quite nice looking. It's got standard RAM, which these days sticks out like a sore thumb, unfortunately. It's got a 5700 XT graphics card, which is pretty good. It's not as good as a 3060 Ti, but it's quite good. Let's take a look at these components. Okay, so it's got the Ryzen 3600, it's got the 5700 XT, 32 gigs of RAM, so that's a little bit more RAM there. It's got an Asus Prime motherboard, doesn't specify which one, 1 terabyte NVMe drive, 1 terabyte hard drive, and then 256 SSD drive. So in terms of storage, this is quite maxed out here. This is quite nice. 500 watt 80 plus power supply, doesn't specify which brand. And a, wait, where was I? Oh, here we are. A Lian Li case with 3 RGB fans, and comes with Windows 10. I would have wanted him to specify the power supply, but in terms of value, I'm going to label this as an okay value as well, because these parts are a little bit older. It's a good PC. You'll be able to run almost everything at maxed out at HD, same as with the previous PC. And this is an 8-core CPU, so that helps a lot. So this is going to perform better than the previous PC, but if you could have added like that 3060 Ti into this, that would have been an excellent value. So I'm going to label this as an okay value, almost good value. Let's take a look at one last pre-built. We'll go around $1,000 for the last one. Let's take a look at this one. RTX 3070, this is an all-white build, looks amazing. Ryzen 5 5600, custom white PC. Wow, this is a really nice looking PC, and what he's done here is custom painted the stock rave cooler as well, and he's got those cable extensions that are white. So this, in terms of looks, this is top tier. This looks really nice. It's got that Montec case, which isn't the best, but it looks really nice at least. Wow, it's got like an icy kind of look. I really like how this looks. Black power supply, but at least it's in a basement, so it doesn't matter too much. In terms of looks, 10 out of 10. Let's see. Montec Air white, ARGB, Ryzen 5 5600, which is of course a 6-core CPU with 12 threads. It's got the white painted stealth Rave stealth cooler, B550M ASRock motherboard, 16 gigs of RAM. Not the best RAM from Oloy, but at least it's kind of fast. CL16 is a little, it's not the best. A 1 terabyte NVMe drive. RTX 3070 from PNY. Oh, it's spray painted white, so it's not a custom. It's a custom white. It doesn't come out white. It's really well done. I think it looks really good. 500 watt 80 plus bronze power supply. You would have hoped for a little bit more power there. 500 watts is okay, I think, but yeah, you would have hoped for like a 750 or something. It doesn't say which power supply. This Kutsinu PCs doesn't really specify too much. And it has those white cable extensions. So right off the bat, I'm going to label this as a really good value, because I know it's $1,100, but this graphics card still sells for like $400. The CPU is, it's not the Ryzen 5700, which unfortunately would have been a much better value, but the CPU is still quite expensive, and because of the custom work done on this, you know, to make it such a nice looking PC, I think it's a good value. Maybe I exaggerate. It's not a really good value, but I think it's a good value. If you can get this sort of PC for around $1,000, I think that's a good value. So I'm going to label this a good value. So in terms of, let's see if we have some benchmarks. No benchmarks. He does give like a video here, but I'm not going to play through that now. But you can think how it will do. This PC will even do really well at 2K gaming, and it will reach 60 FPS at 4K gaming. So it's a really good PC. Okay, that's it for the mid-tier PC. So we had 2 okay values and 1 good value. Not too bad. Okay, let's take a look at the top class stuff now. Pro gamer. I'm gonna go for a cheaper one, and then an expensive one, and then a really expensive one. So let's take a look at this. This is a production and gaming PC, an 5900X Ryzen 9, 6800 XT graphics card, 32 gigs of RAM and a 2 terabyte NVMe drive for just under $1,500. Seems like a pretty good value to me. This is a cool case as well. And it's got a Be Quiet AIO. Really good quality fans there. Be Quiet fans. Yeah. I think it's a Be Quiet case as well. Yeah, this is a good PC. Not the best cable management. Not terrible. Yeah, it's got a really good motherboard. Comes with Wi-Fi. Let's see. Be Quiet Pure Base, FX 500 case, 5900X 12 core 24 thread CPU, really good CPU there. Be Quiet Pure Loop 2 liquid cooler, the B550 Aorus Pro motherboard, 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance, 3600 megahertz RAM, CL16. So pretty good RAM. Could have gone a little bit higher with the clock speeds, with the RAM speeds there, maybe like 44,000 megahertz. 2 terabyte M.2 drive from Silicon Power. An Asus TUF 6800 XT power graphics card, 16 gigabytes. That's really good. Power supply is a raidmax Revolution. I've never heard of that brand. 850 watt, 80 plus gold certified, fully modular. And then it's got those Asia Horse cable extensions, the black ones. And comes with Windows 10 Pro. Wow. Yeah. I'm going to label this as a really good value, extremely good value straight away. This is an excellent gaming PC. You could destroy 4K with this PC, and as it says, production. It's a really good PC. I think for $1,500, this is a very good value. Let's take a look at another one. Ooh, that's expensive. Let's take a look at it. $3,800. RTX 4090, so that's obviously top tier. Ryzen 9 7950X 3D, it's top tier. 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM, 2 terabyte SSD. I do not like this case. That's just a personal preference, but I don't like the way it looks. It's got a Cooler Master case, Cooler Master fans, Cooler Master AIO, MSI graphics card, T-Force RAM, 64 gigs of it. Looks like, I'm not sure, it looks like 2 sticks, so it's 32 gigabyte per stick, and it's got an EVGA GT series power supply. Okay, let's take a close look at those specs. Ryzen 9 16 core 32 thread CPU, 7950X 3D. It's got a really big L3 cache as well. It's a really good CPU. B650M Asus Prime motherboard. GeForce 4090 model may vary, so he's got a bunch of those that he's just gonna throw in. I would have liked to know the specific model if I were purchasing something at this price. 64 gigs DDR5, doesn't specify speed. You probably need to specify speed at this point for this price. 1000 watt 80 plus Corsair power supply, but this is an EVGA power supply, so I think he's got a bunch of parts that he sort of like uses, throws around. I do not like that it's not specific. I would have, if I had this amount of money to spend, and I don't, I would need the seller to be very specific about what I'm getting. Lian Li Lancel 2 mesh case, that's not the case that's in the picture. To Lian Li Galahad AIO, it's not the AIO in the picture. So yeah, I don't like this because it's not the same motherboard as well from the Asus Prime. Oh, it is the same motherboard. Well, apart from that, he doesn't specify the RAM speed. Cases vary, fans vary, AIOs vary. Yeah, power supply varies. I don't like this. I think it's very expensive. And if you're purchasing something for this price, you need to be very specific with what you're getting. Very good parts, but it's not a good value, and I don't like the way this is set up at all. So I'm gonna say bad value for that one. Let's take a look at like a middle, maybe this one. $2,300. This looks extremely nice. Yeah, that's really nice looking. It's got a Corsair, I think this is a 5000D case, maybe a 4000. It's the airflow variant. Yeah, looks extremely nice. Let's take a look. Custom Corsair Asus PC ROG Strix 3090 11700KF liquid cooled. So it's a good PC, not top tier, but very good. Part picker listed for over $3,600. I guess that's new. Corsair 5000D Airflow White, Intel i7 11700KF. I'm not sure how many cores that has. It says 8 cores, probably 16 threads then. Yeah, at this price point, you want to have a little bit more than 8 cores. 3090 Asus ROG Strix, Corsair 850 watt power supply, Corsair Vengeance 16 gig 3200 megahertz RAM. This price point, you want to go for a little bit faster RAM, and you want more than 16 gigs at this price point. Corsair IQ Elite Capellix 360mm radiator, so that's the AIO there. It looks really nice. We have a 1TB NVMe, two of them, two 1TB NVMe's. We have Corsair, 7 Corsair fans, so a total of 10 fans, 7 of these fans, 3 of these fans, so a total of 10 fans. And this motherboard supports up to 4 NVMe slots, and we are using 2, and it's an Asus Z590E, so it's a really big motherboard. Yeah, this is an extremely good PC, but I don't think it's worth this price. I think for $2,000 you can build something better than this, secondhand of course. But I think these parts are a little bit older, and I think this needs to come down to around $1,800. I know the value is still really high, but it's just newer parts have come out with better values. So I'm going to put this as a bad value as well. Not because it's a bad PC, I think it's an extremely good PC, but there are better parts now that you can get for cheaper. So that's it for looking at the custom built PCs. If I remember, in the value we had 1 good, 1 okay, 1 bad. In the mid-range we had 1 good, 2 okay, I think. And in the Pro Gamer we had 2 bad, 1 good. So it averages out at around okay value, if I remember from what I've said. But it definitely averages around okay value for if you just take like a adjusted value for all of the PCs that we looked at, just an average value. Not the best, not the worst. There are some really expensive ones, but there are some good value ones as well. So that's it for the custom built gaming PCs. I'm going to take a quick look at the custom parts. So yeah, so far average value. Let's move on to the custom parts. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm just going to browse through parts, just take a look at the value. We have a selection of GPUs here. This is a 6800 XT 16 gig for $450. Yeah, it's a pretty good value. It's not bad. It's average. It's an average value. This is a really good graphics card, but it does average around this price point second hand. Yeah, average value, pretty good, not too bad. A 2070 Super for $180. Okay, it is on special, but I'm just going to go with the price that I see. Yeah, this is a good value. I think this is a good value because this is still a good card for HD and 2K gaming. It looks nice. It's not too big. Doesn't take too much power. $180. Yeah, I'm going to put this as a good value. Pretty happy with that. Okay, let's take a look at an RX 588 gigs for $75. And this is a gigabyte one. That's a pretty good value. Now, I know you can buy them new from AliExpress or Amazon, whatever. They aren't really new. They aren't used, but they are sort of like, how do you put it? Not like old parts, but kind of old parts. So to get a second-hand RX 580 for $75, that's a pretty good value. I would be happy with that. Let's take a look. A 1070 blower, $90. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a decent value. It's an average value. So in terms of GPU prices, I'm just going to take a look at these ones here, the ones that are sort of like popular. I'd say it's a good value overall, close to average, but pretty good. I think it's a pretty good value. So pretty good on the GPUs. Let's take a look at some... can we specify CPUs perhaps? Let's see. All processors. CPU plus motherboard. I'm just going to take a look at the CPUs. A 6500 quad core for $25. Yeah, that's pretty cheap. That's pretty cheap. It's a good value. It looks to have a little bit of damage, but I'm sure it works. I mean, if you take a look at the Celeron next to it for only $5 less, then this is a good value. Take a look at the 4960X Extreme. I think this is a DDR4 supported CPU. It's a 6-core, and they want $100 for it. Yeah, this is not the best value because it is a very old CPU at this point. It's good, you know, it's still a good CPU, it's quite powerful, but no, for $100 you can get a good 6-core CPU new. So no, that's not a good value. So good value, bad value so far for the CPUs. Let's take a look at, I'm just taking a look at like second-hand ones now. I think these are all second-hand, but I just mean like a little bit older ones. Let's take a look at this one. Tested, cleaned i7 8700 6-core CPU for $87. That's pretty good because it seems like it's in good condition and it's not a super old CPU. It's maybe like 5 or 6 years old at this point, but it's at least it's not a 4th gen, you know, it's an 8th gen. So yeah, I would say this is a good value. Not excellent, but good. So for the CPUs, we had a couple good values and one bad value. So overall, pretty good. Yeah, I'm just taking a look at like random things, just trying to determine an overall value. Let's take a look at the cases as a last thing because this video is getting extremely long, and then we'll just talk about the site. So this is new, but it's open box. This is a dark base 700 RGB. I mean, this is a really nice case. I would say average value because it might be new, but it's open box, so I would want around $100 for this. So I'm going to say average value on that one. Let's take a look at the wow, this thing is dirty. Kind of an odd selection of cases. Okay, let's take a look at this. $75 for a Bitphoenix Nova Mesh. It's quite a small case. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good value. It's average. It's not excellent. This comes from Bitphoenix, so I assume this is new. But again, you can get cases like this for, and this does come with 4 fans it seems, and a fan controller, but like yeah, maybe around 70 is probably right. So I would say average value. Let's take a look at the last one. So Bitfinex do sell a bunch of cases on here. Let's see. Open box Razer Tomahawk. Geez, when last did you see a Razer case? Like new. Now I do know Razer have quite a markup on their products. They are very expensive. But I don't actually know the value of Razer products, especially cases. I haven't come across them. So I don't think I'm going to rate this one because I don't know enough about it. I do know this. And in South Africa at least, this is what this case would cost new. So I'm going to say bad value because around 800 Rand, $50, you can get this case new. So bad value. So it's quite a bad value for the cases, not the best. We had 2 decent values, 1 bad value, so it's not the best in terms of that. So yeah, let me do an outro here, talk about the site in general, overall what I think about it and the values that they have. Now of course Jawa.gg don't make the values themselves, whoever works there, they just sort of curate it. And I think there are certain specials to be had. For instance, this 2070 Super for $180 is a really good price. In this value section, this computer was quite a good price. This one was a decent price. So there are values to be had, but you will have to take a look around because some things are very overpriced as well. And overall, like the CPUs, there were a few good deals, there were a few terrible deals. The cases, not too good overall. But in terms of the pre-built custom PCs, if it were me, I would just purchase the parts separately and build that computer instead. And maybe that's an idea for a follow-up video to this. Maybe we can select a few parts from the lineup that they have, like the GPUs, the CPUs, whatever, and we'll just theoretically build a computer that matches one of the ones that they have listed, and we'll see what the price comes up to, because that's a good way to determine what the value actually is. But overall, I'm going to say the site has an average value. It's not bad, it's not excellent. It's good in some parts, but it's bad in some parts. So I'm going to say average. I do like the way that the site looks and feels. It's very responsive. They are partnered with Zach from, I think it's Zach's Tech Turf. Yeah, Zach's Tech Turf. And he's a very good creator. So I think that the community outreach for this site is very good. They've got a very active Discord. But some of the prices aren't the best. But then again, like I said, some are really good. So I do think you should sell on this site if you can, and I think you should shop on this site if the shipping is reasonable. But just looking at the raw prices, it's definitely, there are specials to be had, so you should consider it. And I'm sure I'm going to take more looks at this site in the future. So with that said, thanks for watching the video. If you stuck around for this long, I know this video was extremely long, so I apologize for that. It's probably over half an hour now. But yeah, I do make long form content. I do like to discuss things for quite a while. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. If you have any suggestions or ideas, let me know. And I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.